Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to tell you a heartbreaking, twisted love story that will break your heart into pieces. This is eternal peace for a lifetime. A tale of a princess's unrequited love, cruel betrayal, burning revenge, and a man's belated, useless regret. I was Ning Jiashu, the beloved princess of the dynasty. And I was Mu Yongan's rightful wife, married to him through proper ceremonies. But he did not love me. He racked his brains to divorce me. Yet, when I finally agreed to the divorce, he clung to me desperately. He said, "Jiashu, marry me again." Mu Yongan was certain he would get his way, and I went along with him. Little did he know, I was dying. When the Imperial physician told me I had little time left, my mind went blank. It was as if an invisible hand had squeezed my heart tightly, robbing me of breath. I forced back the sweet, coppery taste in my throat and asked calmly, "How much time do I have left?" The Imperial physician hesitated for a moment and said gravely, "At most half a year." Half a year. I thought bitterly. The 3 years I had painstakingly built my marriage had left me with only this short half year in the end. I struggled to keep my voice steady and waved for the Imperial physician to leave. After he left, I sat alone in front of the bronze mirror, staring at my haggard reflection, my heart a jumble of emotions. I wondered if Mu Yongan's cold, sharp eyes would flicker with sorrow when he learned I was dying soon. After 3 years of living together day and night, even if our affection was thin, there must be some reluctance, I mused to myself. Night fell, and lanterns lit up the mansion. I sat by the window, gazing at the fading sunset on the horizon, my heart filled with bitterness. With a creak, the door opened, and Mu Yongan walked in. I turned my head to look at him and forced a smile on my face. "You're back." Mu Yongan merely hummed indifferently and sat at the table, pouring himself a cup of tea. I looked at him, hesitated for a moment, and couldn't help asking, "Why are you back so late today?" Mu Yongan took a sip of tea and said calmly, "I met an old friend outside today and chatted for a while." I said, "Oh," and fell silent. Mu Yongan put down his teacup, glanced up at me, and hesitated to speak. My heart tightened. Did he know I was ill? However, when I saw the woman following behind him, the smile froze on my face. The woman had a graceful figure, beautiful features, and an indescribable charm in every move she made. What shocked me most was that her eyebrows and eyes bore an 8/10 resemblance to Liu Yingji, the woman Mu Yongan had always pined for. My heart sank abruptly. "This is Wanrong, the top courtesan of the fireworks alley," Mu Yongan said in a flat tone, yet his words struck my heart like a heavy hammer. "I want to take her as my equal wife." His words were like a sharp blade, slashing through all my pride. I stood frozen in place, overwhelmed by humiliation. I sighed inwardly. "Mu Yongan, how much more do you intend to hurt me?" I, a princess of the realm, was to be on equal footing with a courtesan? "Mu Yongan, you have a lot of nerve." I maintained my composure on the surface, but I could not hide the trembling in my heart. Mu Yongan frowned, his voice tinged with impatience. "Princess, Wanrong is gentle and kind, and we are deeply in love. Why can't I marry her?" Deeply in love? I looked at the man before me, my heart turning cold. So this was what he called deeply in love. I took a deep breath, struggling to suppress the anger in my chest, and said word by word, "I will never agree." Mu Yongan's face also turned cold. He looked at me and said icily, "In that case, please sign this divorce paper, princess." He pulled a pre-prepared divorce document from his sleeve and tossed it in front of me. I stared at him, the man who had shared my bed, now a stranger to me. My heart plummeted to the bottom of the valley in an instant. He wanted to divorce me for a courtesan? I took a deep breath and laughed bitterly in anger. "Mu Yongan, don't even think about it." In the end, Mu Yongan and I parted on bad terms. That night, Mu Yongan held Wanrong and stayed in the wing next to my room, laughing and frolicking all night. This was his revenge on me. On the very day the Imperial physician pronounced my days numbered, my husband held a woman who looked just like his white moonlight, whispering sweet nothings to her. The day after Wanrong arrived was my birthday. My 18th birthday. In past years, both the palace and the outside world would celebrate for days. But this year, it was cold and quiet, as if I was the only one in this vast princess mansion. I sat blankly in front of the bronze mirror, my face pale and my eyes empty. "Princess, today is your birthday. Would you like to dress up?" My personal maid Luju asked cautiously. I shook my head and smiled bitterly. No need. Luju saw I was in low spirits and dared not say more, only stepping back silently to the side. I stood up and walked to the window, gazing at the bleak autumn scenery outside, my heart desolate. 18 years old, the age when one should be carefree and unrestrained, yet I was like a canary trapped in a cage. No freedom, no happiness, only endless loneliness and despair. In a daze, I heard the servants whispering. They said Wanrong wanted wontons from Li's shop in the south of the city, so Mu Yongan had ridden out early in the morning to buy them. I froze. Mu Yongan had actually ridden out early in the morning to buy wontons for a courtesan. Bitterness welled up in my heart. He had never gone to such trouble for me. I once thought he simply did not know how to be gentle, but it turned out he just did not want to be gentle to me. I shook my head with a bitter smile, my heart turning cold. As I stood there in a daze, footsteps suddenly came from outside the door. I looked up and saw Mu Yongan and Wanrong walking in side by side. Wanrong was holding a food box, presumably containing the wontons from Li's shop in the south of the city. Looking at their intimate appearance, I found it extremely piercing to the eye. "Princess, what's wrong? You don't look well," Wanrong said in a soft, weak voice, feigning concern. I looked at her and sneered inwardly. "Nothing," I said flatly. "I just didn't sleep well last night. Since the princess is unwell, you should rest early," Mu Yongan said. "I have business to attend to, so I'll take my leave." I lifted my eyes and smiled bitterly, emphasizing, "Yongan, today is my 18th birthday." Mu Yongan froze, as if only then remembering what day it was. I looked up at him, but there was no longer any expectation in my eyes. "Can you stay with me for the day today?" My voice was so soft, like a murmur or a plea. Mu Yongan paused in his steps, turned around, and a flicker of impatience crossed his eyes. "Princess, when Yingji was alive, she never had a single birthday banquet. You always spent your birthday alone in past years. Why can't you do it this year?" His tone was calm, yet it pierced my heart like a sharp blade. Yes, where had he been on my birthdays in past years? Either at the military camp or at Liu Yingji's grave. I smiled bitterly. Yes, I had been foolish to hope. "Yongan, why haven't you gone to burn incense for Yingji today?" He frowned, his impatience plain to see. He always interrupted me like this, ignoring my feelings. His eyes and heart were forever only for that dead woman. My heart felt as if it was being squeezed tightly, robbing me of breath. I lifted my head and looked into his cold, emotionless eyes, a strange surge of courage rising in my heart. Why doesn't Wanrong have to go? My voice was weak, yet tinged with unwillingness. A flicker of impatience crossed Mu Yongyan's eyes. Wanrong can't stand the smell of incense and candles. His answer was simple and direct, devoid of any emotion. Anger and sorrow intertwined in my heart, turning into a cold laugh. So in his heart, I was not only inferior to the long-dead Liu Yingji, but even to a courtesan. Something inside me changed at that moment. I even wanted to see just how far Mu Yongyan would go for Wanrong before I died. In the evening, my mother sent eunuchs with birthday gifts for me. Staring at the several carts full of presents, my mind involuntarily flashed back to the day I begged my father to grant me a marriage to Mu Yongyan. In the Golden Throne Hall, I wore a bright red court dress and a phoenix coronet, kneeling before my father and mother, my voice firm. "Father, mother, I admire General Mu Yongan of Zhenbei, and I wish to spend my life with him." Absurd. My father flew into a rage. "His heart only belongs to that Liu girl. You will only humiliate yourself if you marry him. I have made up my mind, father and mother. Please grant my wish." I kowtowed, tears blurring my vision. I knew Mu Yongan did not love me. The one he yearned for day and night was Lu Yingji, his childhood sweetheart, who had fought alongside him on the battlefield and died for the country in the end. But I loved him so humbly and desperately. He had sworn never to marry again, yet finally agreed to my proposal a year after Lu Yingji's death. I was overjoyed. I could not bear to let such a chance slip away. Even though I knew he had another in his heart, I decided to take a chance. But I was wrong, so completely wrong. On our wedding night, he brought back a woman from the brothels. He held her in front of me, whispering sweet nothings to her. The pain in my heart at that moment was indescribable. The entire capital was laughing at me. Yet I chose to endure. Because I loved him. I cooked delicious soups for him, kept him company at night, copied scriptures for him, burned incense and prayed to Buddha for him, all just to beg him to glance at me. He said, "Yingji lost her life for your Ning family's country. You should burn incense and pray for her." I had no words to reply, only accepting it silently, hoping it would make him happy. He said, "You are too weak, nothing like Lu Yingji's valiant spirit." For him, I hired the best martial artists in the capital to teach me martial arts, just to be closer to the woman in his heart. I practiced until I was covered in scars, only to be met with his words, "You don't have Yingji's talent, just give up." Yes, I would never be Liu Yingji. I could never compare to that woman who was like a god in his heart. But at least in the eyes of others, Mu Yongan and I seemed to treat each other with respect. I also thought I would live a muddled life with him like this forever. Now Wanrong's arrival had shattered my peace once again. Ever since the Imperial physician diagnosed me with a terminal illness, the mansion had been filled with the bitter smell of herbal medicine all day long, lingering and impossible to dispel. One day, Mu Yongan came to see me. As soon as he stepped into the courtyard, he frowned, an unmistakable look of disgust on his face. "Why are you drinking this useless stuff?" There was not a trace of concern in his tone, not even a single question about why I was taking medicine. "It's nothing, just some tonics," I replied flatly, not wanting him to see anything wrong with me. "You have a white magnolia tree in this courtyard that Wanrong likes very much," he suddenly said, his gaze falling on the blooming white magnolia in the yard. "This courtyard is quite elegant too. Why don't you move out and give it to Wanrong?" His tone was casual, as if he was talking about a trivial matter. Yet my heart felt pricked by needles, a sharp, fine pain spreading through me. I lifted my eyes to meet his cold gaze, my heart desolate. "Very well," I agreed unusually quickly, without the slightest hesitation. Mu Yongan was clearly taken aback, not expecting me to agree so readily. He looked at me deeply, left a sentence, "You know what's good for you," then turned and left without a single glance back. I watched his retreating figure, a bitter smile tugging at the corner of my mouth. The next day, I moved out of the courtyard I had lived in for years. I even found the best painter in the city to paint a portrait of Mu Yongan and Wanrong, calling it a congratulatory gift for their housewarming. The servants all said I must have gone mad from drinking medicine, but I only smiled faintly and said nothing. That night, my conditions suddenly worsened. I could barely breathe, my chest feeling as if it was crushed by a huge boulder, the pain unbearable. I clung to my last breath and ordered Lu Zhu to fetch the Imperial physician. Lu Zhu rushed out in a panic, but soon came back crying. "Miss Wanrong has caught a cold. The general is worried about her weak health and has kept all the Imperial physicians at her side. He even ordered them to treat her with all their might." I smiled bitterly, my heart breaking like a knife. So Wanrong had only caught a cold, yet he went to such great lengths for her. And I, a dying woman, could not even get a single doctor. I told Lu Zhu to go again. In a daze, I only heard Mu Yongyan's impatient and angry voice. What is she fighting for now? Can she possibly die? I smiled bitterly. Mu Yongyan, I am really dying soon. I closed my eyes, letting the pain devour my consciousness. In that moment, besides anger, a deep sense of unwillingness welled up in me. A plan for revenge took shape in my heart, little by little, in an instant. I burned with fever that night, my consciousness clear one moment and fuzzy the next. Vaguely, I seemed to hear Lu Ju begging bitterly and Mu Yongyan's impatient scolding. But in the end, I endured the long night alone. The next morning, Mu Yongyan came. He held a crystal-clear red agate in his hand, rubbing it gently. He said red agate was festive and suited my complexion perfectly. There was a hint of guilt in Mu Yongyan's words. I knew this gift was nothing but his way of making up for what happened the night before. The red agate was exquisite, but I could not bring myself to like it. Everyone knew that Princess Jiashu loved pearls, but Mu Yongyan did not know. Liu Yingji alone loved red agate, a fact known to few. But Mu Yongyan remembered it by heart. I still smiled and accepted it, thanking him sincerely. Mu Yongan's expression was softer than when he had arrived. He seemed to want to say something, but hesitated again, his gaze falling on my face, frowning slightly. He asked, "Why are you so weak?" There was a concern in his tone I had never heard before. I looked at him, forcing a smile on my pale face, hiding the bitterness in my eyes. I must have caught a chill from the wind yesterday. "You?" He wanted to say something again, but stopped short once more. I thought he must be ashamed of stopping the Imperial physician the night before. Looking at him, a strange sense of satisfaction from revenge suddenly rose in my heart. "General, don't worry. I know my own body well." I paused and asked casually, "How is Sister Wanrong feeling, though?" At the mention of Wanrong, Mu Yongyan's face instantly darkened. He stood up abruptly, the wooden chair scraping against the floor with a harsh screech. "What trick are you playing now?" I was startled by his sudden anger, looking at him in confusion. "What exactly do you want?" He looked down at me from above, his eyes filled with disgust and wariness. "If you want to make a scene, go ahead. Why put on this act, pretending to care?" With that, he stormed out, not looking back even once. I stared blankly at his retreating figure, a strange sense of self-mockery rising in my heart. He did not love me. Everything I did was seen by him as having an ulterior motive. A stabbing pain shot through my chest again. My condition seemed to have worsened since the Imperial physician first diagnosed it. I stared blankly at the hibiscus tree outside the window, its branches and leaves swaying gently in the breeze. I stared at it for a long time, until I felt as if I was the only one left in this silent world. Sunlight filtered through the gaps, casting dappled spots on my face, bringing a trace of warmth, yet it could not warm the coldness in my body. In the evening, I ordered Lu Ju to send the precious tonics I had kept for years to Wanrong. Lu Ju was indignant on my behalf. "Princess, why do you bother?" I only smiled calmly and said, "I must play the role of a good wife well." The plan in my heart grew wildly like vines. I wanted to make Mu Yongyan bear the chains of morality for the rest of his life, living in the scorn and ridicule of everyone. I thought of everything for Mu Yongyan. I suddenly wanted to know what mood Mu Yongyan would be in when he recalled this moment after I died. Days passed. Every day, besides burning incense for Liu Yingji, I also cared for Wanrong, asking after her health and sending her tonics. I was so thoughtful, yet Mu Yongyan still seemed unhappy. He would come to my courtyard from time to time, sitting there silently with a dark face. "Ning Jiashu, if you're unhappy, just say it. Don't hold it in." He always said this, his voice tinged with impatience and a trace of unease. At such times, I only smiled silently, poured tea for him quietly, and watched him drink it down in one gulp. I knew what he wanted was not my virtue and gentleness, but for me to quarrel with him, make a scene with him like before, so he could feel my care. But I no longer cared about him now. All the love and hate in my heart seemed to have been drunk down with the bitter herbal medicine every day, turning into nothingness. That day, Mu Yongyan stormed off again after being angered by me. He slammed the door shut, leaving the courtyard desolate and me with a bitter smile. Lu Ju was indignant on my behalf. "Princess, why do you do this? The general clearly cares about you." "Cares about me?" I murmured, my eyes filled with bitterness. "Is there such a thing as care in this world?" Lu Ju sighed. "The general is just bad at expressing himself. He wishes you would treat him like you used to, be jealous, throw a tantrum. Anything is better than being like a wooden doll now. I was shocked by Lu Ju's words. Is there such love in this world? Love wrapped in indifference, expressed through hurt, maintained through distance. I once thought every appearance of Mu Yongan, every bit of his concern, was another language of love. Yet when the truth was cut open like a sharp blade, I realized it was nothing but my wishful thinking. I could not understand Mu Yongyan's feelings, nor did I want to. I only wanted to live out my remaining days in peace, then take my secret and leave this world forever. That night, news came that Mu Yongan had been poisoned, shocking the entire mansion like a clap of thunder. The one who had poisoned him was none other than Wanrong, the woman Mu Yongyan had brought back. It turned out she was a spy from an enemy state, who had approached Mu Yongan to get the defense maps in his hands. But Mu Yongan had never given her the chance. Enraged, the enemy state ordered her to poison Mu Yongan to death. Wanrong committed suicide after poisoning him. Her body looked especially desolate in the moonlight. In the room, Mu Yongan lay pale on the bed, his brows furrowed and his lips purple, clearly deeply poisoned. Even though I no longer loved him, my heart still ached for no reason. I took a deep breath, struggling to calm myself. How is the general now? The Imperial physician replied tremblingly. Someone needs to test the antidote. I will, I said. My voice was soft, yet firm. Lu Zhu looked at me worriedly. Princess, your body. I'm fine. I interrupted her, my gaze firm as I looked at Mu Yongan on the bed. This is the last thing I can do for him. I picked up the medicine bowl and drank it all in one gulp. The bitter medicinal juice flowed down my throat into my stomach, burning my internal organs like fire. I forced myself through the discomfort, walked step by step to the bed, and held Mu Yongyan's cold hand. Mu Yongan, you owe me. You will never repay it in this life. My voice was so soft, only I could hear it. I closed my eyes, letting darkness swallow me. Mu Yongan, you cannot die now. At least not before I take my revenge on you. The antidote took effect quickly. Before my consciousness faded, I seemed to see a tear slide down the corner of Mu Yongyan's eye. Was he crying for me? Ridiculous. In my sleep, I seemed to return to the first time I met Mu Yongyan. Mu Yongan was not as cold as he was now then. He always had a sunny smile on his face. His smile had once been the brightest light in my heart. Back then, I had gotten separated from my father during a hunt. In my panic, I was surrounded by jackals. Fear enveloped me, and I thought my life would end there. Just like in all the storybooks, Mu Yongan happened to appear at that moment. Riding a chestnut horse in red robes, he was utterly dashing. He nocked an arrow and drew his bow, his movements smooth and flowing, shooting all the jackals dead in an instant. Don't be afraid, he said. He dismounted, walked up to me, and spoke in a gentle tone. I looked at him, my heart pounding wildly. When Mu Yongan saw my injured ankle, he carried me on his back without a word. Holding the horse with one hand and supporting me steadily with the other, he led me out of that ghostly forest. A young girl's love always came so simply. I regarded Mu Yongan as my hero, but I never imagined he already had someone in his heart. Liu Yingji, his childhood sweetheart, inseparable from him. Everyone knew they would marry one day. Unlike in the storybooks, I never interfered in their relationship. I was a princess, and I would only marry someone who would marry me properly. I hid my love and silently blessed the perfect couple. But fate was unpredictable. A year later, Liu Yingji died tragically on the battlefield. Mu Yongan was overcome with grief and swore never to marry again. I felt sorry for Mu Yongyan and Liu Yingji, yet I never thought of taking advantage of the situation. Mu Yongan drank himself into a stupor every day, and I visited his mansion every day with Imperial physicians. Mu Yongan and I kept to the etiquette of monarch and subject. But unexpectedly, a year later, Mu Yongyan suddenly asked me if I admired him. I blushed and admitted it. In that case, let us get married, he said. Please ask the king to grant us a marriage, princess. Mu Yongan's tone was calm, without a trace of emotion. I was overjoyed, thinking he had finally opened his heart and chosen to start anew. I was so foolish then, taking his calmness for deep affection. I thought this was the beginning of happiness, never imagining it was just the prelude to another tragedy. After we married, Mu Yongan never treated me well. He blamed Liu Yingji's death entirely on me. He said if it were not for protecting my Ning family's country, Liu Yingji would not have lost her life at such a young age. But he forgot that Liu Yingji had protected not only the country, but also the people. Cough, cough. I suddenly opened my eyes, my vision blurry. Lu Zhu's surprised voice rang out. "Princess, you're awake." I struggled to sit up, but found myself weak all over. Lu Zhu pressed my shoulder and looked at me worriedly. "Don't move. The Imperial physician said you need to rest." "Princess, you scared me to death." I looked around and did not see Mu Yongan. I asked, "Where is he?" Lu Zhu's expression was complicated. "The general is in the side chamber." "Princess, the general, has become lame." Lu Zhu's words were like thunder in my ears. "Lame." I could not believe it. Lu Zhu said, "The Imperial physician said the poison the general was given was too powerful, damaging his tendons and veins. But the Imperial physician also said that Mu Yongan's legs were not completely beyond recovery, it would just take time." When I arrived at the side chamber, Mu Yongan was sitting by the window. His once upright back now looked so lonely. He heard my footsteps, turned his head, and forced a smile on his face. "You're awake?" He rarely smiled at me. I had almost forgotten that this man used to love smiling. I looked at his lonely eyes and sighed softly. Mu Yongan was a military general. He could accept death, but how could he accept being lame? I comforted him. I said, "Don't worry, you will get better." In truth, I did not care about his recovery as much as I once did. Human feelings were so strange. When I loved him, I treated him with all my heart. But after my heart died, even the most basic affection took great effort to fake. Mu Yongan was silent for a moment, then suddenly lifted his head, a trace of confusion flashing in his eyes. "Why did you risk your life to test the antidote for me?" I sighed inwardly. "I had to do something unforgettable to make you devoted to me forever." But on the surface, I only smiled and pretended not to hear. News of Mu Yongan's lameness spread throughout the capital. The young masters who had always been at odds with him paid people to insult him outside the mansion. Truly, common folk were full of talent. By noon, not a single insult was repeated. Lu Zhu stood beside me, indignant, but I remained calm. After all, they were not insulting me. These people shouted from day to night. It was fine during the day, but their shouting at night would disturb my rest. I found a few guards to drive the people away, and by the way, beat the rich masters behind them. Not too hard, just enough to lame their legs. The lame young masters were thrown onto the street by the guards. With people coming and going, I found a group of idle children. I gave them 5 taels of silver and asked them to sing the ballad I had made up to those lame young masters every day. Mu Yongan somehow found out about this. When I brought him medicine, he said I should not have gotten so angry, that he did not care. I looked at him and said word by word, "You don't care, but I do. You are the one I love. I cannot let people insult you like this." Mu Yongan froze, turned his face away, and fell silent. But I clearly saw the emotion in his eyes. I thought my plan was about to succeed. At night, the pain in my chest became more and more frequent. I knew my time was running out. I stopped drinking the bitter herbal medicine. I stayed with Mu Yongan, letting the Imperial physicians try every method to treat his legs. "If my legs can't be healed, will you despise me?" Mu Yongan looked at me, a trace of unease in his eyes. I smiled and held his hand. "How could I despise you? You are the marriage I begged for in front of the Buddha with great difficulty." Mu Yongan's fingers trembled slightly. He lowered his head, hiding the emotions in his eyes. I gently smoothed the messy hair on his forehead, pretending not to understand his guilt. That night, I suffered from insomnia again. I sat alone by the window, staring at the quiet world outside. The hibiscus flowers that had bloomed brilliantly a few days ago had withered away without me noticing. I realized it belatedly. I was going to die. Mu Yongan's leg injury recovered very slowly. The Imperial physician said he had damaged his root this time, and whether he could recover fully depended entirely on himself. Every day, I made him delicious food in different ways, talked with him, and pushed him to sunbathe in the garden. In the past, I had never imagined that Mu Yongan and I could have such peaceful moments. The servants in the mansion all said that the princess had been so kind and righteous to the general, and it would be ungrateful of him if he still did not fall for her. I listened to their whispers indifferently, busy decocting medicine. Mu Yongan seemed to have accepted his lameness and no longer objected to others practicing martial arts in front of him. When I learned martial arts from the warriors, Mu Yongan even gave me some pointers. He no longer said I was not as good as Lu Yingji. He rarely mentioned Lu Yingji now. He even said I did not have to burn incense for her anymore. I just smiled and shook my head. I burned incense for her without missing a single day. Since I was putting on an act, I had to deceive everyone, including Mu Yongan. One day, the spring scenery was lovely, and I brewed a pot of new tea for Mu Yongan. I smiled and said, "Chang'an, when your legs recover, I'll go for an outing with you." Mu Yongan said nothing, just looked at me quietly. His eyes were complicated, and I could not understand them. Perhaps it was guilt, perhaps it was gratitude, or perhaps a trace of love that he did not even realize himself. I pretended not to see it and rambled on about some interesting things. I knew my time was running out. I needed to leave the deepest impression on his heart. I wanted him to never forget me for the rest of his life. Day after day, spring passed and autumn came. After a long period of rehabilitation training, Mu Yongan finally managed to stand and walk again without crutches. I watched him walk towards me step by step and felt a little moved. After Mu Yongan recovered, I stopped going to see him. Instead, he often came to my courtyard to keep me company. He said, "Jiashu, thank you." He said, "Jiashu, I was an asshole before. I'll change, and we'll live a good life from now on." The promise I had once longed for sounded harsh to my ears now. Mu Yongan said he had fallen in love with me. But what difference did it make? It was all too late. I pulled my hand away from his grasp and said calmly, "Mu Yongan, let's get a divorce." Divorce? Why? Mu Yongan's face was filled with complicated emotions, surprise, confusion, and a faint trace of pain. I said, "There is no why. Whatever was between us is over." Mu Yongan panicked and grabbed my hand tightly. "It was all my fault before. I didn't cherish you. Give me another chance and I'll treat you well. I'll prove to you that my feelings for you are true." I sneered. "Mu Yongan, how long will your so-called true feelings last?" I shook off his hand and threw the pre-prepared divorce paper in front of him. "You're free." That day, I moved out of the general's mansion and never looked back. But Mu Yongan seemed to have become a different person. He came to the princess's mansion every day to beg for my forgiveness. He sent me my favorite pearls, saying he had found them in the south of the Yangtze River, and they were the only pair in the world. He said he had let go of Lu Yingji and only wanted to spend the rest of his life with me. He even knelt in front of me in front of everyone, begging me to give him another chance. Lu Zhu could not stand it anymore and came to persuade me. "Princess, the general really knows he's wrong. Please forgive him." I touched the pearls Mu Yongan had sent and smiled at Lu Zhu. "You see, it's actually easy to learn what someone likes. You just need to ask anyone." Mu Yongan had known this truth before, but he had disdained to learn about me. What was this now? Guilt? Or unwillingness? Belated affection is worth less than grass. I would not want it. One day, Mu Yongan came again, his eyes red and his voice hoarse. "Jiashu, marry me again, okay?" Mu Yongan's figure was stretched long in the dim moonlight. I looked at him, feeling quite helpless. I whispered, "Mu Yongan, we're done." His smile froze on his face. "What did you say?" "I said we're done." I repeated, my tone calm and firm. "I don't love you anymore, and I don't hate you anymore. Let everything between us fade away with the wind." "Jiashu, do you really not love me anymore?" Mu Yongan's voice was low and hoarse. I turned my head away from his gaze. Loving or not makes no difference to me now. Mu Yongan fell silent, and the air in the courtyard seemed to freeze. I could hear my own heartbeat, clear and steady, beating one after another. "I don't understand," he finally said. "Why have you changed so suddenly?" I took a deep breath and said, "Mu Yongan, I haven't changed. I've woken up. I finally understand that true love is not torturing each other, not making each other suffer." I looked at him, no tears in my eyes, only determination. "Mu Yongan, let everything between us be in the past." He stepped back, as if my words had struck him right in the heart. I could see his hands shaking. It was the first time I had seen him lose his composure like this. He turned to leave, but stopped again. What if I say I'm willing to change?" My heart trembled, but I quickly calmed down. Change is not just a matter of words. Mu Yongan. This is the end for you and me. Mu Yongan left. After that day, he never set foot in the princess's mansion again. I thought he had finally given up. After all, he had never been a patient man. I started coughing frequently, sometimes even coughing up blood. Lu Zhu cried anxiously and begged me to send for the Imperial physician, but I waved her off with a bitter smile. I knew my time was running out. This broken body could no longer bear the burden. One day, I was leaning by the window sunbathing when I suddenly heard familiar footsteps in the courtyard. My heart skipped a beat, and I looked up sharply. It was Mu Yongan. He had lost weight and looked haggard. His originally handsome face was now covered in stubble, his eye sockets sunken and dark circles under his eyes. He was carrying a food box and walking towards me step by step. I held back the sadness in my heart and asked indifferently, "What are you doing here?" He said nothing, just opened the food box, which contained my favorite osmanthus cakes. He took out the osmanthus cakes, put them on the table, and said softly, "Your favorite osmanthus cakes. I made them specially for you. Taste them." I turned my head away from him and said coldly, "I'm not hungry." He was silent for a moment and then said, "Jiashu, I sent all Yingji's things back to the Lu family. From now on, you will be the only mistress of the general's mansion." I interrupted him, my tone calm. "Mu Yongan, who are you putting on this act for?" Mu Yongan never expected that the words he had once said would be thrown back at him. He looked up sharply, his eyes red and his voice hoarse. "Jiashu, it was all my fault before." As he spoke, he knelt down in front of me with a thud. A gesture that had once felt warm now only disgusted me. When Mu Yongan saw that I was unmoved, he came to the princess's mansion day after day. He did not beg to see me, just stood silently in the courtyard for the whole day. No matter it was windy or rainy, he never missed a day. He had people send me my favorite things every day, but I turned them all away. I knew he was making amends, but some mistakes could never be fixed once made. That day, I coughed up blood again. Bright red blood stained my clothes, a shocking sight. I leaned weakly against the head of the bed, my vision going black in waves. In a daze, I seemed to see the high-spirited young general again. He rode a tall steed towards me at full speed, a bright smile on his face. He said, "Don't be afraid. I'll take you home, Your Highness." I reached out to grab him, but it was all in vain. He drifted farther and farther away from me until he finally disappeared. I woke up with a start, tears blurring my eyes. That day, Mu Yongan came again. It was drizzling outside, and he stood in the rain, his back looking extremely lonely. The fine rain wove an invisible net, trapping him tightly inside. I looked at him, mixed feelings surging in my heart. I told Lu Zhu to call him over. I said to him, "Mu Yongan, if you sew a mandarin duck wedding veil within 10 days, I'll marry you." Mu Yongan was stunned for a moment, then overjoyed. I watched his leaving figure, a bitter smile tugging at the corner of my mouth. In the following days, the general's mansion began preparing for the wedding. The whole mansion was filled with joy. I heard that Mu Yongan had hired the best embroiderer in the capital to teach him embroidery for the veil. I also heard that Mu Yongan's 10 fingers were almost pricked full of holes from the embroidery needles. I leaned by the window, feeling a morbid sense of pleasure in my heart. I called Lu Ju over and told her to start preparing my funeral. Lu Ju cried and said I would live a long life. I smiled and called her a silly girl. I had coughed up almost all my blood. How could I live long? 10 days later, Mu Yongan sent over the wedding veil he had sewn with his own hands. My funeral preparations were almost complete. I touched the lifelike mandarin ducks on the veil and casually threw it into the fire basin beside me. I watched it burn to ashes. That night, I lay quietly on the bed, listening to the howling wind outside the window, my heart peaceful. Mu Yongan, if there is an afterlife, I hope we never meet again. The next day, Mu Yongan arrived as promised. However, what greeted him was a cold coffin. Mu Yongan went mad. He told everyone he met that it was his wedding day to marry the princess, handed out wedding candies to everyone, and giggled foolishly. But everyone knew the princess was dead, killed by his cruelty. He's gone mad, truly mad. General Mu must have lost his mind, acting crazy all day long. Exactly. I heard he holds the princess's portrait and cries every day, saying he wants to take her home. Poor princess, she gave her whole heart to the wrong man, and ended up like this. People in the capital were talking, saying Mu Yongan was ungrateful, and had driven the princess who loved him deeply to her death. I listened to these rumors, feeling no ripples in my heart. It was just as well that he went mad. Living with endless pain and torment was the best punishment for him. I was dead, but for some reason, my soul had been following Mu Yongan. I stayed by Mu Yongan's side day and night, watching him go crazy, watching him break down. Mu Yongan got into a fight with someone again, all because that man said I was dead. From the day he went mad, whenever Mu Yongan heard someone say the princess was dead, he would pounce on them like a madman, punching and kicking them, shouting as he fought. Jiashu isn't dead, she's just asleep. She'll come back, she'll come back. As time passed, my father feared he would hurt others and ordered him to be confined to the general's mansion. Every day, the servants of the general's mansion could see Mu Yongan walking around the courtyard in a bright red wedding dress, calling, Jiashu, one moment, and Yongan, the next. He would fill the courtyard with dishes, saying he was waiting for the princess to come back and eat with him. He would also talk to the air, saying one moment, Jiashu, your favorite osmanthus cakes. I made them specially for you, taste them. And the next, Jiashu, don't be angry, it was all my fault, I won't do it again. He looked as crazy as could be. I watched coldly from the side, watching him go mad and wild for me. After watching for so long, I became numb. The resentment in my heart seemed to fade away. When I no longer loved him, the hatred dispersed too. Another midsummer came, and the enemy state invaded, putting the border in urgent danger. All the senior generals in the court had been sent out, but they still could not resist the enemy's attack. One day, the servants of the general's mansion found that Mu Yongan was gone. They searched the entire mansion, but could not find him. Finally, news came from the front line that Mu Yongan had died on the battlefield. Before he died, he kept murmuring, Jiashu, I'm coming to accompany you. I curled my lip. Mu Yongan, don't come to me, it's bad luck. In my next life, I never want to meet you again. This is the story of one-sided love, cruel regret, and a revenge that lasted beyond death. Mu Yongan spent his whole life pushing me away, only to beg for me when I was already gone. Belated love is truly worth less than grass. If you loved this tragic, twisted story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment below. Let me know, did you feel sorry for Mu Yongan in the end, or did you think he deserved every bit of his pain? I'll see you in the next video.